All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. I just want to make an observation, and we'll see where this goes. Observation like this. Somebody, let's say, someone asks, a rabbi a certain question. They ask a certain question. So now let's say they don't have an answer, or they don't know the answer, and they have to look it up. What if it's something that should be obvious? Right? Give an example. Let's say, someone asked the question, about tree of knowledge. Person, tree of knowledge of good and bad, where the inclination was, or Adam and Eve ate from the tree, right, and all that. So what if a person said, no, that was the tree of life? That'd be a pretty serious mistake, right? You could say, well, maybe they forgot. I don't know. Maybe they just weren't thinking. And they mentioned the tree of knowledge or the tree of life instead of the tree of knowledge. Yeah, so there are cases where, let's say someone came to Beis Din, someone came to rabbinical court, and they asked the Beis Din, there was a certain, certain question came in front of Beis Din, in front of the rabbinical court, and let's say the rabbinical court makes an egregious mistake. They make a severe mistake. Now the question is, what mistake? What type of mistake? Not only what type of mistake, the question will be, do they have to pay? In other words, they took out money from one person to another, gave it to another, but they were wrong. They were wrong in their psak. They were wrong in the law over here. So the question is, this is in the law of the damages, chapter 25, 26. So there's a whole long discussion, really long discussion. What type of mistake they made? Did they make a mistake in something that was obvious in the Torah? They missed an explicit verse. Did they make a mistake in how we hold? In other words, let's say there were two opinions in the Talmud, and one opinion is brought down the code of Jewish law, and they made a mistake. They went according to one opinion instead of another. So that's less of a mistake, still a mistake, but it's not like saying they missed something obvious. They missed something obvious, yeah, then, they certainly should have to pay. Right? There's a question though, let's say, came in front of a rabbi, is considered an expert, a world-class expert, which we don't really have today in general compared to the time of the Talmud, but let's say we call somebody like that a mumchur rabbi. He's an expert. He's an expert in public matters, i.e., he's an expert in this topic, in this subject, right? Let's say the laws of damages, right? There were people that were experts that they could. Two people came in front of them. They could answer the question. Really, you should have a Beis Din. It's better to have three people, right? So you can, hash out the arguments and different things. But someone who's is an expert, and two people agree to go to this one person and not to a Beis Din, they could. Right? They're relying on their expertise. Now, if they make a mistake, again, it's going to depend on the mistake per se. But someone who's a world-class expert, they make a mistake, they may not have to pay. Right? In many cases, they won't have to pay. So this is very complex, right? I don't want to go into detail here because it'll take me weeks to go through it because it's extremely complex. Well, let's just say, when it comes to a rabbinical court, you're relying on the fact they have knowledge. That's exactly what you're relying on, that they have knowledge. Now, does that mean they're not infallible? Right? Does that mean they can never make mistakes? No. Gemara already says. Gemara already asks questions. in a number of places. What if they made a mistake in this? What if they made a mistake in something else? So you know they're fallible, right? You know they're fallible, but you're relying on their expertise. So at the same time, person goes to Beis Din for whatever they need to go for. They're going to rely on this Beis Din, right? And hopefully the rabbis of that Beis Din, know what they're doing. Technically, all you need is like a stamp to open up a rabbinical court, right? So who says people really have credentials? But I would say in general, obviously you'd have to check out their credentials. Being a rabbinic court judge takes years and years to learn. Laws of damage is very complex. Laws of marriage, divorce, vows. I mean, it takes years to learn. So, the reason you have 3 people sitting there, besides the fact it mentions judges 3 times in a certain vicinity in the Torah, so the rabbis learn out, you need 3. You need 3 rabbinical court judges at least to judge the laws of damages, right, in general. So if they've studied years and years, passed their requisite exams. Now, my Rebbe would say that's not enough. Also have to learn under someone, apprentice, under somebody. Also have to have fear of heaven, not just taking an exam, not just book knowledge. Right? That's not the only criteria. But it takes years and years. Okay. So that being said, they, question comes in, and they have all the details, bring in all the witnesses, they confer among themselves. These 3 rabbinic court judges confer among themselves. And what happens? They come to an agreement, or let's say it's 2 against 1. So the Torah and Book of Exodus chapter 23 verse 2 says you go after the majority. Going after the majority meaning for good, not for bad. And even if the person who has 1 vote and there are 2 against him, and that person's greater than both of them combined, still loses. My Rebbe once told me, he told me once, the rabbinical court he sat in, probably one of the most powerful rabbinical courts in the world. And he says, I have a vote like everyone else. And there are times I get outvoted. So what can I do? I get outvoted. But the Torah says you go according to the majority. He might be greater than the others. Right? Very well could be. Very well could be. But people, what are you going to do? You go after the majority. That's what the Torah says. Even if the 2 are lesser in knowledge. Right? That is what the halacha is. Now, does that mean across the board, any person, you ask them a question, they have an answer on the spot? Some do, some have encyclopedic knowledge. Some may give a bad answer or think they have an answer, it might be the wrong answer. So the Brisker Rav of blessed memory, Rav Yisrael Zev Soloveitchik of blessed memory, son of Rav Chaim Brisker would say, better to say I don't know than come up with a bad answer. Okay? So he said that shows humility. Don't give a bad answer. Say you don't know. Or say you're not sure. Now, what happens? Comes somebody and say, isn't it true the world was created in 6 days? They know it was 7 days. So what did God do on the 7th day? He rested. Right? So certain things I would say, are red flags, depending on what the question is. The question, on something obvious, you can call in the question the person's knowledge. Could? It was something obvious. There are details sometimes people forget. And if they make a mistake, and then they say X, Y, and Z based on that mistake, that's bad. That I would agree is bad. Then the logic is faulty. That's true. It depends what type of mistake they make. right? So in a rabbinical court, which here is very complex, as we said, a person can make an egregious mistake. They forgot a Gemara. Now, is that possible? You know how many pages of Talmud there are? 2,700 so odd pages. Could someone make a mistake and forget it? Could. You know, a person can be world-class expert, can have photographic memory. Okay, that helps. But if you don't review, you'll forget. And there's sometimes, if you do review sometimes, maybe things are confusing. And so you have to look it up year to year. I mean, I looked up something this morning. You know, whatever. I was reviewing something this morning. So I said, I want to look at this in a little more detail. Yeah. So, you know, I was thinking, okay, maybe there's some permissibility. You know, some rabbinical authority is going to hold somewhere, you know, out there. I don't know. You know, it's pretty black and white. As I remember, it's pretty black and white. Okay. So let's see. So I looked at the Rambam, or let's say better, I looked at the Code of Jewish Law. Code of Jewish Law quotes the Gemara. Nobody disagrees. Nobody on the side of the Gemara, anybody, no one disagrees. Okay. So let me look at later commentaries. Right? Let me see. Anyone discusses it? Nope. Look at a number of things. Like 20 minutes, half an hour going through this. Yeah. Nobody says anything. Look at a whole bunch of things. So I said, okay, let me go back to the Gemara. Let me go back to the original source. There was another Gemara also. I looked it up over there. Looked up the commentaries over there. Nobody says anything. Black and white. At least that I remember. Okay. Yeah, black and white. I still had a question. Question still stood. I mean, I have a few ways potentially to answer it, right? But you know, if you don't review, you won't remember. That's clear. The Chofetz Chaim says in the laws of Shabbos, right? He says in the laws of Shabbos, clear as day, if you don't review the laws of Shabbos, what's going to happen? You'll forget, right? 100%, 100% you will forget, right? That's what's going to happen. You'll forget. You're not cursing anyone. He's telling you. The laws are complex. There are a lot of laws to go through. You'll forget. Right? But it's pretty severe if you do. Could be a rabbinic prohibition, could be a Torah prohibition. So you have to review. 100% you have to review. Right? The person has a learning disability. Well, he's not going to be a rabbinic court judge. That's for sure. I mean, probably won't, you know, it depends what the learning disability is. Yeah. In other words, if you're telling me a person can't really learn so well because they have a learning disability, yeah, that's a different issue. You know, God's not going to expect them to know as much. I mean, they have to know what to do. They have to know how to keep Shabbos, other things, right? But they'll be limited, 100%, right? They'll be limited. So God will look at them in a different way. In other words, if they have greater capability and they don't use that capability, that's a different issue. There are people who have great capability, they waste it. Right? There are people who waste what their capability could be. Other people don't have that greater, you know, God's going to see inside a person. And if he sees they can really accomplish a lot more and they don't, it's on them. Unless, in this case, let's say they're under onus. They're not going to get that far. You know, they'll get however far they get at their level. What does it mean, their level here? Wherever they're holding, they have a learning disability. Won't be the same as someone who doesn't. God is going to expect less of them. He understands. But that person could be a certain way on a higher level than someone else who waste their time. Doesn't reach their potential. This person has limited potential. Other people don't have limited potential. Whatever they put in, whatever they're able to do. It's not limited per se. Someone who's got a disability is a different issue. Totally different issue. God's not going to expect as much from them. It will expect something at their level, okay? And then someone has greater understanding, he's going to expect more from them, right? I think that's clear. I think that's clear. I'm just pointing out that, there are mistakes people can make, or even better. There are psaks, there are, they could be a decider of Jewish law, give an answer for something, even if they ask another greater rabbinic scholar and still look bad. Still give a bad answer. Right? I'll give an example. We'll take this idiot in Boca Raton. Yeah. A number of years ago, there's whole controversy. Wanted to bring a missionary come speak in a synagogue as a motivational speaker. So there was, there was a lot of discussion, different things, a lot of pressure. The person backed down, not the rabbi, the missionary backed down. He was going to get paid $50,000, like kind of crazy. I would have done it for a third of that, but okay. I couldn't find any better Jewish motivational speaker. Okay, whatever. He backed down. Now the rabbi was adamant, and he felt bad, and blah blah blah. But the last year, or a few years, or whatever it was, someone else came. Again, they weren't top, top tier missionaries. Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't really matter. You're allowing them to speak as a motivational speaker. Yeah, they're not going to engage people in conversation about, their beliefs, and okay, I take that with a grain of salt. But I already spoke about that in my rant about what's bogus in Boca Raton. But somebody like that, now he claims a number of years ago his rabbi told him he'd be allowed to do it. It's just that this rabbi, bigger than him, did not want to be quoted. Of course, they didn't want to be quoted. Everyone would have tarred and feathered him. Everyone would come out very strongly against him. How could you permit such a thing? Even if you believe it, it's true. And that's something pretty egregious. That's pretty egregious, right? So this person, in Boca Raton, as a based got a rabbinical court, accepted in the land of Israel, for conversion, for other things. Would you trust what such a person says? In such a way? Allows a missionary to come speak, allows a sex therapist to come speak. So my answer in my video was I wouldn't let him speak out of a toilet. Came in the bathroom, I wouldn't let him speak. You don't want a person like that in, period. So his conversions are valid in the land of Israel. Any takers? Anyone want to go? That's pretty egregious. I don't say anywhere in the Torah. Someone's going to claim that. Don't say anywhere in the Torah you can have a missionary come speak in a synagogue. In an Orthodox synagogue. Definitely Reform or conservative, I don't have a problem. That wouldn't bother me as much. Why? I don't know my Torah mitzvahs anyway. So what? Very good. But in such a case over here, you let this cesspool, you let this idiot come and speak in an Orthodox synagogue? And this guy does conversions? Yeah. I don't care if he does it for free. Ain't worth the paper it's written on. Yeah. This person should be allowed to speak anywhere. That's why we live in an upside down world. Take somebody like that, cover of Jewish magazines, world-class educator, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. This is what you do. Some people say, hey, well, maybe you're just jealous. You want to be on that magazine cover. Okay, so what? Maybe I would. And this person is converting people. This person has a rabbinical court. Monetary matters. Other things. But even if someone says, it doesn't say anywhere a person can't do that. Doesn't say anywhere in the Torah. Yeah. There's a 614th, 15th commandment. Don't be a moron. Yeah. You go to somebody like that, you're playing with fire. More than fire. Wouldn't trust the word the person says. Not one. He's got no believability to do something like that. Now, So it depends what type of knowledge we're talking about. Could someone make, there are people out there, big experts in Chumash and Rashi. And every Rashi they know, okay? And they know at the back of their hand, fine. There are plenty of people that don't. They should. Not saying it's a good thing. Person should learn Chumash and Rashi every week. Right? Many bring down, that brings a person to fear of heaven. See how Rashi learns the verse and what he's talking about and what's bothering him and different things. So again, what does the person forget here? If a person forgot something obvious, so yeah, they got to review better. And no question. Not everyone's expected to know everything. But you expect basic things people should know. Okay. Like I said, I don't have an issue with that. They're basic things I would say people should know. And sometimes I'm surprised, people learning for many years, and sometimes I'll hear question somebody asks or something like that. And they say, yeah, I've been learning for 10 years, give or take, whatever, 5 years, 8 years, 6 years, 3 years, whatever. And they ask a question that I would think they should have known. That's basic. Yeah. So it depends what the question is. See, when it comes to something basic, that could be open to interpretation. Yeah. Person could say, well, that should be obvious. Yeah, it should be. Some things more obvious than others. So it depends what it is. Depends what the context is. Depends how bad they made the mistake. Yeah. Comes to learning, let's say, about the holidays. There are a lot of halachas governing what we're supposed to do. During whatever holiday or fasting, right, etc. Let's say by the 9 days, right? We're only by 9 days. Tisha B'Av starting tomorrow night, right? All around the world. Tisha B'Av ends Thursday night. Now, not allowed to eat meat or drink wine during this whole week except on Shabbos. Am I allowed to eat meat right after the holiday? Right? So right after the fast. No. I have to wait when? I have to wait till the next day. I have to wait till the next day at halachic midday, which is about 1:45 here in Israel. Let's say. Then you can eat meat. According to some others, you wait really till Shabbos. Okay. Now, what happens if Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos? Can't fast. It's called a nidcha. You push it off. You don't fast on Shabbos except on Yom Kippur. So when does Tisha B'Av start? Saturday night, before sundown. So then you start fasting from before sundown till the next day, 20 minutes after sundown, whatever it is, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, after sundown. Okay. Can I eat meat straight after? No. Now you might think you should be able to. Why? Because it's not the 10th of Av, it's the next day. Right? The 10th of Av, only at midday, halachic midday, I can eat meat. Okay. But this is the 11th, the day after. So you might think, you might think it's permissible. Could a person make a mistake in that? Yeah. Could make a mistake. Right? You could forget. That's why you always have to learn these laws every year. And you have to keep reviewing. Because if you don't, you'll forget. Everyone will tell you that. So then the question will be, doesn't it mean it depends what you forget? Depends what it is. Yeah, it depends what it is. If it's something obvious, really, that everybody should know and you forgot it, would that call into question all your knowledge? I don't know. Maybe. Person could say, hey, this person knows something obvious. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they didn't have clarity. Maybe could be any number of things. But could that call into question something? Okay, depends what obvious means. That depends what the case is. Yeah, so you have to see. You have to see case by case. Case by case. And mentioned a few weeks back, just because that person has certain knowledge in something doesn't mean they have knowledge in other things. If someone's out there doing outreach, doesn't mean they necessarily have world-class halachic knowledge. Doesn't mean that. Some do. Some have more than others. But if I had certain questions, that I had doubts on whatever, I wouldn't be going to them for answers. It's not a knock on them. I don't think they have the knowledge. I'll go to someone who I think has the knowledge or should have the knowledge. There are different levels. But you're going to say, even someone like that, can't they forget things? They could. There's a lot of detail in Judaism, lots of detail, plenty of detail. The question is what you're forgetting and why you're forgetting it. Yeah. So I'll tell a story about myself. I had a question about something, and I kept looking around. Didn't see anyone ask the question. So normally you don't see someone ask the question. Normally your question is wrong. You're not going to come up with something no one really ever asked, right? As King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, "Ein davar chadash tachas hashemesh," nothing new under the sun. You're not going to come up with something new that no one ever thought of. So, okay, I had this question, thought about it. Look at this, looked at that, looked at the other thing. No. So I went on to something else. I came back to it. And I said, okay, I thought it was such an obvious question. So I said, let me go back. I wouldn't say I was so well versed in these verses, about this particular topic. So I said, okay, let me go back. Maybe I missed something, possible. Definitely possible. I went back, there it was. There it was, black and white. Yeah, why is it black and white? I missed the verse. I missed an explicit verse. Now, someone could say, how could you miss it? It's a verse in the Torah. Yeah, how could you miss such a verse? So I'll tell you, it depends what the topic is. If it's something you're not well versed in, let's say like sacrifices or impurity and impurity, could you miss something? Oh, you can miss something. You can miss a lot of things. Why? Because that's not your area of expertise. That's what you concentrate on. You still have to know it. 100%, you still have to know it. And you have to learn it. So something that comes up every day, you should know. Comes to prayer, I see the question in prayer, or everyday rituals and different things and holidays. Yeah, those things you should know. But keep in mind, a lot of things are complex also. Yeah. Not everything is necessarily straightforward. And there are times, even verses, I mentioned on Sunday, right, about dissecting a verse and what it's coming to exclude or what it's coming to include. When you look at a double language with the same words. Yeah. If you didn't learn that Gemara over there, you wouldn't know what he was talking about. Or Chaim HaKadosh brought this down and brought down different possibilities. What is coming to include, what is coming to exclude. Based on what? A Gemara in Zvochin. It's a Gemara in Zvochin. Okay? Yeah. So what was it talking about over there? We're talking about if a person kills an animal outside where they're supposed to sacrifice. Right? A Kohen who does that, right, is liable to be spiritually cut off. Okay? The question is, why the double language? Why should there be used the double language over here? So good. Now, someone would have asked on the spot, what's the answer? I want to know. I want to remember. So Raj doesn't bring it down. Right? This commentary brings it down. Sure, others also. When I looked at it, okay, I saw it black and white. Now, if you would have said, how could you not know that? There are 2,700 pages of Talmud. You remember every last thing you should. Depending on what you learned, it's as vast as the sea. So again, I would think other things a person should remember. True? Very true. It depends what they forgot. So even if you're telling me in the time of the Talmud that the rabbis could forget something that was obvious, i.e., they missed an explicit piece of Talmud. Yeah, they missed a verse in the Torah. Happened to them. So ask the question, how could it happen to them? Weren't they 10 times, a billion times greater than we'll ever be? Sure. Makes the question stronger. How could they forget? How could they forgot a verse? How could they forgot another statement somewhere? What's the answer? They're human. Remember every last thing they should. They reviewed what they learned every 30 days. That's how you don't forget. Every 30 days, they reviewed everything they learned. Yeah. So you work on your memory. Okay. And then the Gemara is full of questions. You say like this over here, says like this somewhere else, and the Gemara has to answer why it's not a contradiction. Or sometimes it is a contradiction. Gemara says, I don't have an answer. Right? They still leave it as a question. Right? Gemara asks it all the time. Why are you saying like this? Something obvious over here, you missed. So now they'll answer it up why it's not a problem. Yeah. That you're talking more than 2,000 years ago. So if you're talking about great people like that, who could forget something, or maybe misinterpreted something, that happens a lot. Oh, you think like this, I got a source like this, answers up like this, how could you say that? They made a mistake. Well, I'll give you a very egregious mistake. You take somebody who's on the Sanhedrin. You take someone on the Sanhedrin. Some of the greatest people ever in the history of man. Elisha ben Abuya, as he was known, or known as Acher, the other one. There's a discussion at the end of the Gemara in Chulin. Elisha ben Abuya sees a child climbing up on a ladder, doing the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKeh. Now, why is he doing the mitzvah? Because his father told him, climb up on the ladder, shoo away the mother bird, and take the eggs. Now, what's the reward for taking the eggs, shooing away the mother bird? Long life. That's what the Torah says. You get long life. Now, question, what does that mean? I mean, this world, the next world. So we'll see. So now comes the law. So now what did he do? What did he do also? He listened to his father. Father told him to do it. So he's got a positive command to listen to his father. Right? Listen to his parents. You listen to your parents, what's the reward? What's the reward for listening to parents? Long life. Same thing. Yeah, what happened in the story? The child's coming down, child fell and died. Elisha ben Abuya said, how can this be? How can God be just? And he became a heretic. Now, the whole thing behind the story, it wasn't just from that action itself. He became a heretic. Right? Basically, other things happened before that. And he was reading things he shouldn't have read and got involved in other things he shouldn't have gotten involved in. Okay. But that was the final straw. That was the final straw, made him into a heretic. The rabbis chastise him and say, that's not what the verse means. When you're telling me honoring your parents and shooing away the mother bird gives you long life, it didn't mean long life in this world. That's not what it meant. It meant in the spiritual world. Now, you have to understand, what does long life in the spiritual world mean? So, okay, that's the whole discussion. That's the whole discussion. Right? But here the Gemara says he made a fundamental mistake. A fundamental mistake, and he didn't understand the verse. Think about it. This is a Tana. This is a member of the Sanhedrin, right, before it went off. He made a mistake. The Gemara says he didn't understand the verse. Now, what's someone going to answer? What's someone going to answer? How could you make such a basic mistake? ask the question stronger. This person had the ability to be on the Sanhedrin. He knew 70 languages, top-notch rabbinic scholar of any generation. Made a mistake in a verse. That's what the Gemara says. He made a mistake. He misinterpreted the verse. I would think that's pretty egregious. Caused him to go off. I mean, that was the final straw. Other things, he's involved in other things as well that caused him to go off. But okay, so that being the case, you can see even great people can make mistakes. Even great mistakes. Now, some would say, isn't that going to call into question his believability? Yeah, it will. It will, but there were other things going on at the time. Up until this point, he was still on the path. He was still in the Sanhedrin. He was still answering people's questions and giving over Torah until this point. So you can see, even the greatest can make a mistake. Yeah, so I'll answer the question. Yeah, the Ben Ish Chai, who was the I don't even know how to explain who he was 100 years ago. He was the Baghdad. He wrote 70, 80 books. One of the books he wrote is on these homiletical, Gemaras, explained in either simple explanation or Kabbalah, like nothing in between. And he would give these classes after services in the morning, to the people in the synagogue. So he wasn't considered like the chief rabbi. He was like the one who gave sermons all around. I mean, top-notch rabbinic scholar, no question. So he answers like this. He says, you're right. What happened? This child doing the mitzvah of shooing away the mother birds. He's also doing the mitzvah of honoring parents. How could he die? So the Ben Ish Chai says that what happened over here? He didn't fulfill the mitzvah. He didn't finish the mitzvah. Taking down the egg, shoo away the mother bird, and he fell. And he died. So he didn't complete either mitzvah. He didn't complete the mitzvah what his father told him to do, and he didn't complete the mitzvah what he was supposed to do. So in either case, he didn't do it. Right? That's what the Ben Ish Chai answered. But the point over there, I'll mention one other story, I'll take questions, that the point is that the rabbis told him he made a mistake in understanding the verse. And that happens a lot. It happens throughout the time. I could say like this. I got an explicit verse like this. Or you misinterpreted the verse. Or I have another case like this. That how are you going to answer? It happens all the time. Now, I'll tell another story. Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Why is he famous? Yochanan Kohen Gadol, he was the high priest. The Gemara says that he went into the Holy of Holies, for 80 years. The high priest for a long time. Went in the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. Came out unscathed. Must have been on a very, very high spiritual level that we can't imagine. The Gemara says he became a heretic. He became a heretic. So I ask, someone who goes into the Holy of Holies and comes out pure, and comes out, let's say better, comes out intact. What happened to all the Torah? What happened to all their righteousness, all their tzidkis? They came out unscathed so many years in a row. Now you want to tell me he becomes a heretic? In simple language, simple explanation, inconceivable. Rationally, would make absolutely no sense at all. None. Why? You take someone at that stature to become a heretic? Come on, I go further back. Look at Korach. Speak about Korach a lot. Yeah. Came out of Egypt, saw the miracles in Egypt, saw the miracles in the desert, carried the ark, and didn't die. How could he go against Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron? And convince 250 great people to go against them? Very hard to understand. Wasn't a slouch. Jealousy killed him. That's the bottom line. I saw Samuel the prophet's going to come out of him. He said, look, I got yichud. I have a pedigree. What happened? Look what happened to him. How could someone, and the Gemara says he wasn't a fool. So if he's not a fool, how can he make such a mistake? What's the answer? Simple answer. Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, desire, honor, and jealousy can take you out of this world. So the commentaries over there say jealousy meaning exactly what it sounds like. What's the proof? Korach. That's the greatest proof. But look who he was, look where he came from, look what he saw. Doesn't matter. Jealousy 100% destroyed him. It's hard to imagine. You go to the story of the spies, same thing. They didn't have belief in God, they didn't have faith at some level. God's going to take care of them when they go, when they go in. When they go in the land of Israel, and these giants or whatever, so what? God's not going to take care of business. Hard to imagine. Very, very hard to imagine. And because of that, we have to fast on Tisha B'Av. God says, oh, you're crying for nothing? I'll give you something to cry about. For all generations until the Messiah comes. We're suffering because of what they do. We're suffering because they lack faith over here. Hard to understand. At face value. Wouldn't you think that's a basic mistake? By the Be'er Shem El Moshe Lemor, God spoke to Moshe saying, God spoke to Aaron saying, Moshe and Aaron saying, the Jewish people, whatever the verse is. And God says Moses is believed. He's my most beloved servant. Whatever he says goes. Of course, but I want to be the high priest. Well, what have you been smoking all these years? What do you mean you want to be the high priest? God said Aaron's the high priest. How can you go against what God says? So it concocts this whole thing against Moshe and against Aaron. But what's the source? Jealousy. Jealousy is the source. They want to tell me he was a fool? He wasn't a fool. Abner was not a fool. Jealousy killed him. He made a very serious miscalculation. It's also pretty darn egregious. So you see throughout history, a person can have knowledge, world-class knowledge, but they forget basics. Right? That's harder to understand because he saw God face to face at Mount Sinai, whatever that means. And he saw the miracles in Egypt. He was one of the 20% came out, and you're saying, I want to be the high priest? And I want to go against what God said and what God told Moshe? It's incomprehensible. How did someone make such a mistake? That's a pretty darn egregious mistake, isn't it? There is. Very hard to understand. At face value. Very, very hard to understand. But you see, throughout history, people can make mistakes. Very serious mistakes. Very serious mistakes. The question is, why they make the mistake? What's behind what they made the mistake? Korach, you see, jealousy. Cain and Abel fighting over the world. Doesn't Cain understand? He can't kill. He understood. Feels guilty. Feels bad. Right? God tries to cajole him, tries to get him to do tshuva. Anger. Doesn't Cain understand? He can't get angry. What anger can do. Very hard to understand at a certain level. But the point is that regardless of what a person's knowledge is, they can make mistakes. It's possible. It's possible to make mistakes. Right? King Solomon says, no one's been in this world that hasn't made a mistake. You can make mistakes, depend. So you'll say, depends what mistake it is. Okay. Korach made a very serious mistake. Cost him his life, his kids, and everyone around him, 250 people that he convinced, great rabbinic scholars. They all got swallowed up. They made a serious mistake in judgment. How could they do it? So someone would say today, it's a good thing they're not alive. I'd never listened to them. Oh, very good. But you know what? These people will be greater than we'll ever be in a million generations. We don't imagine who these people are. Again, look at it, face value. someone forgot a basic law in the laws of Shabbos, yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah, or they forgot we hold like this or hold like that or something. Yeah, that's bad. It's something they should know. Okay. Yeah. So it depends what the mistake is. But someone, again, if it's a real serious thing that most people should know. So someone will say that calls into question their knowledge. Maybe. Someone forgot they went like one instead, one rabbi instead of another. A person can make such a mistake. They're human. They'll pay the price in different ways. Okay. Doesn't mean their knowledge is faulty. It means they made a mistake. Okay. I've met very few people in the world that have world-class knowledge in everything. Can answer anything on the spot without looking things up. There are people like that. 100%. There are people like that. Most everyone, there are people that have better knowledge in some things, worse knowledge in other things. Okay. But there are times, even if they want to check themselves, they'll look it up just to make sure. So it depends what the mistake is. It could be something egregious, calls into question what they know. It could be. It could be they made a mistake. Okay. Another person say, but how can I trust them? They made a mistake. It's always about trust. But someone answers 98% of the questions, they get them right. Okay. Doesn't mean, I just had something recently. Someone asked something. And there was no answer they didn't know. It was something they didn't know. I mean, obviously, it's what they're asking. So, but they were asking a different question. So I brought up a different thing and said, well, how can you do this and that and the other thing? Complicate the situation. Very complicated the situation. But I said, how can you not, that's basic knowledge. They had no idea. Person been religious for many years. They had no idea such a thing. Okay, but now makes certain situation much more complicated. Much more complicated. So now they got claims against me because they're mad at me because no one ever told me this before. Okay, it depends what the circumstances are. Yeah, depends what the circumstances are. In my circumstances, when it came to something like this, that was the answer I got. Right. So okay, so certain things I had to do. Wasn't pleasant, but I had to do it. People had to be aware this had to be done. Okay. Made people a little bit uncomfortable, but what are you going to do? Right? There's only so much you can do. So fine. Very good. Yeah. So now this person got a serious question. Got a serious, but also depends on the background, depends, it depends on a lot of other, it's a complex, it's a complex question, but they were going in without certain knowledge. And, I told, so basically said, okay, go ask someone else. I'm saying that's what's been told to me. I don't see why your situation's any different. That's what was told to me. So, they're trying to get around the situation. I don't know how they're going to get around the problem necessarily, but, they're trying to get around the situation. That wasn't lack of knowledge on my part. It's just that the circumstances changed. Okay, it's also part of a question. But to me, it didn't matter. This is something, how you're going to get around this. You have to get around it. But they didn't ask that question, just caused other problems. Right? The person has to know what the question is, ramifications, and, you got to be able to judge it in a way, in an unbiased way. Well, someone should have known that. Depends what it is. Depends what it is. Listen, if someone gave the wrong answer, yeah, they're liable for it. True. 100%. They're going to be liable. They give the wrong answer. Right? That's true. But something that's a little more esoteric, who says they have all the answers to that? Who says? Oh, but you should have remembered that. Certain things, yeah. Certain things, I think beyond the shadow of a doubt, I would never say X, Y, or Z. Right? Someone asked me a certain thing, yeah, that would be the answer. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. Yeah. If I'm not sure, I'll say I'm not sure. I don't know. I have to look it up. Again, it's not a cop-out. Mentioned many times. I don't say I have the answer for everything. Right, for sure. Whatever, so look it up. It doesn't mean anything. The person can't be trusted. Okay. Depends on what it is. Depends what a person's lacking. What knowledge. But there are many ways to give someone the benefit of the doubt, unless unless it's real obvious, or it's something where it calls into a person where they're going to say someone could be a heretic over here, or whatever. Yeah, somebody has over here, Bible critics say it's written in the Torah somewhere. Yeah, I don't really care what Bible critics say. Bible critics study biblical criticism way back. Yeah, they don't really ever like to stand on in many ways, because what they tried to show, they don't have separate documents. They want to claim there are 4 authors and a redactor. They don't even have separate documents for that, to show that there were these separate documents totally, right? So what people, even though in the secular world and the academic world, so they'll claim, they'll swear by biblical criticism. So I took a class in biblical criticism where they claim makes you Orthodox or an atheist, which is very true, right? Most people go the other way, because it calls into question a lot of things. But again, what's it based on? That's, I'm not going to go through all the, all the details. But the bottom line is, we don't hold by anybody, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, someone asks what prayers aren't answered on Tisha B'Av. I don't understand the question. You got to be more specific. I mean, Tisha B'Av is a very sad day, no question, right? We we fast all day from the night before. We we pray similar to what we say during the week, except we read the Torah. After we read the Torah, we read the book of Eichel, book of Lamentations. After the book of Lamentations, in the morning you say, I don't know, more than 40 of these liturgical poems, we call keynotes, and then again, custom is we read the Lamentations again, and then by the afternoon service, men will put on talis and tefillin, and you read the Torah again, and then whatever, you have the evening service, whatever, 20 minutes, let's say, after sundown. So a person can still pray for for all their needs, in a fasting. I mean, pray for livelihood, pray for health, pray for all kinds of things. That doesn't change. That does not change at all. So what prayers are not answered? Why should any prayers not be answered? I mean, if the temple's still not rebuilt, yeah, that prayer hasn't been answered. Right, that I would agree. We still got plenty more to work on. If we're still living without the temple today. I'd read Deot. Yes. Either you're referring to the book of Sajigon, or you're talking about the Rambam's book on knowledge. Yeah, that's not a problem. Somebody asks, can great hurt turn into sin? Oh, it's a good question. I would say like this. I would say a person go through great difficulty can never go through great difficulty and great suffering. Now, we don't believe that God puts us in a situation we can't handle. Yeah, we may think we can't handle it, but we believe beyond the shadow of a doubt, God puts us in a situation we can handle. Even though people say, I can't handle it, it's too hard, and we don't want tests, that's all true. So I'll tell you like this, that what can happen is a person, if I know of a story, not the details per se, but I know of a story where someone became religious, Jew became religious, and what happened? They went to, some reason, they ended up going back, having contact with family, and not being part of a Jewish community, not having, I don't think we had anyone guiding them, in this. The family put a lot of pressure on them, and basically they felt they put so much pressure they couldn't handle it, and they walked away. They walked away basically from Judaism because they felt God put them in a situation they couldn't handle. So again, I'm just telling over a little bit that I do know. So were they faced with a very hard situation? Yes. Right. So yeah, again, I don't have all the details here, but they felt they're in the situation to fail. There's no possible way for them to overcome it. Obviously, God's going to look at it different, right? He's going to look at it in a different way. It's not for us to judge, right? Definitely not for us to judge. But I would say that can a person be overwhelmed, get beaten down in life, and through what they go through, take them through all kinds of different sins? Yes. Very possibly could happen. Very possibly could happen. So they can potentially overcome it. They may have to work hard. They may, suffer like no tomorrow. They may grow from it in such a way that they elevate themselves and become great people, and help reach their potential. That's true. That's very true. Question is, it could also work against them. It could beat them down so much that, they lose hope. And they feel that, God's just sitting there punishing and punishing and punishing. They feel there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And they say, well, you're not going to help me over here, so I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this negative behavior. That can happen. That could happen, because they don't have proper belief and faith in God. Doesn't mean the situation is not hard. It could be very hard, right? That is no question. But I would say at the same time that whatever situation we're in, God has the ability to take us out of it. God gives us the ability, gives us the strength to persevere. Now, a person can say, come on, it's extremely hard and this and that. Okay, I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch. But could a person go the other way? Yeah. Is that what God wants? No. But 100% a person go the other way. Because they get beaten down in life. They say, God's not helping me over here. I'm getting destroyed left, right, and center because of, different things going on. Okay. They don't believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. They give up. And then they revert to do other things, that are wrong. Can that happen? It can happen. That's not what God wants. He wants you to overcome it. He wants you to work hard. A lot of things he wants you to do over here. He doesn't want you to crumble. But he said, what I was going to say, but he gave me this situation. It's too hard. Or too hard. We would say in Boston. Yeah. It's too hard. So, person failed the test. That's the bottom line. They totally failed the test. Again, it's not what God wants. So why is he putting you through such test anyway? Oh, that's a different question. Could be for any number of reasons. Could be for the actions you've done, for the sins you've done. Could be some of it's payback for what your soul did in the previous life. Could be a lot of things. We don't know. We don't know. If it's bad behavior and it's caused because of that, we're going to fix it. Right? That's for sure. If we can see the cause and effect. A lot of times we don't necessarily put two and two together, but there are things that are cause and effect for sure. Right? But yeah, that, when a person gets beaten down in life, they can do things they shouldn't do. 100% they could do things they shouldn't do. Yeah. So another question here is, how do questions for men different from questions for women? Depends. Depends what the question is. Depends exactly what the question is. Certain things were more lenient for women. So if a man asks a question, a woman asks a question, they get two different answers. Why? But they by prayer. Men have an obligation, pray 3 times a day. Jewish men, women don't. So a woman says, yeah, but I should only say this, or I can only say that. They'll get different answers. Why? Because they have different obligations. But if it's, things that are across the board, Shabbos, kashrus, these different things, that's not gonna differ. Right? That's gonna be the same. That 100% is gonna be the same. That won't change. That for sure won't change. Yeah, but there could be other things. Again, depends where they're holding, depends what they're doing, depends what their obligation is. So for some things that are black and white, nothing's going to change. Things that are, even if it is black and white, certain things could change because women have different obligations. Some things, I don't know, it depends on what the case is. Depends on what the case is, But, it depends as well as what their obligation is. If their obligation is the same as men, why should the answer differ? The answer shouldn't differ. Right? But again, you got to be more specific. Why it differs in this case and not other case or whatever. It depends. Depends what the case is. Right? Definitely depends on the case. Somebody asked, I think you missed some of the questions because you don't switch chat into all chat messages. Yeah, I go back and forth, but not so many questions here, so I'm getting all the questions. Yeah, were the slaves of the Jews back then Noahites? Who says they were Noahites? Right. The question is, before they became the Jewish people, they came out of Sinai, right? Were they Jews or Noahites? So that's the whole discussion. That's a whole major difference of opinion. Major difference of opinion. Right? But the Gemara says Abraham, kept the tiny Torah before it was given, whatever that means. So was he a Jew? Right? Was he a Jew over here? Marries Keturah. Did she convert? Seems like maybe she converted. Yeah. Or Rabbeinu marries a convert. Right? Right? Tzipporah seemed to have converted, I guess. So, if you say Yaakov kept the entire Torah before it was given, it wasn't a Noahide, I'd married 2 wives. Yeah, I was Yehuda with his niece. With his daughter-in-law. How could he be with his daughter-in-law? So there are a lot of questions. You go through the book of questions. You got a lot of questions. Yeah. So the question is, the Jews in Egypt, what was their status? Were they a nation at that point? They weren't a nation necessarily. So they came out. So they went to speak to God. They went to see God at Mount Sinai. That's when they became solidified as a nation. So before that, were they Jews or Noahites? Open question. Open question. Why do I say it's an open question? Because it's complex. It's complex. In some ways, you tell me, maybe they're really Jews. Abraham kept the Torah before it was given. Okay, but you got a lot of questions on this. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and and Jacob's sons, and daughter. They're all Jews. You got a lot of questions. A lot of questions. And they kept the entire Torah. So some will say they were Noahites, but if they were Noahites, how could they do this or do that? You got a lot of questions. I mean, I leave it open-ended because it's complex. There are proofs on both sides. A lot of proofs on both sides. That's what it is. Yeah. So, okay, that answers all those questions. So I guess I hit all the questions, right? In this chat, I hit all the questions. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, look at that. I answered all the questions. Psh, good for me. Chalk one up for me. Psst. Hit all the questions. Very good. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday, there will be no Q&A due to the fast. But I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or YouTube. Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism. There I get videos on the Torah portion of the week, Q&As, Pirkei Avos, Ethics for Our Fathers, as well as Torah portion of the week, controversial issues. You can look at orthodoxconversion.com. Anyone has any questions, send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, whichever good. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day.